PSG tomorrow. They want a little bit more. They don't want to let DFM get away unscathed. And in the end, they'll take the Nexus and make a date with destiny on the morrow.
So, undeniably, DFM had a massive underperformance. Actually, both post-3 teams, DFM and GAM Esports, suffered the same fate and ended bottom of the standings. Kurami, what do you think? Whose fault was it? You can see a lot of blaming and flaming going around, some justifiably, but I will try to summarize the timeline and get to the bottom of why DFM couldn't win a single game. So the obvious answer is Totsu. He is a rookie, so much so that this is not just his first international tournament, but these are the first 2 matches he ever played offline. He debuted during the COVID era, and LJL ever since then, still online, has not played a single offline game. And also, he used to be an Auction and Draven 2-trick pony, not the biggest champion pool, and even though during his DFM days, he did learn new champions and he was spamming Cassante in solo queue, he doesn't have infinite time, and no matter how passionate he is, it takes time to learn. And unfortunately, it's very hard to improve in Japan because there are not that many competitive top laners, but he did his best, stay up to 4 AM talking with Saros, his coach, on Discord about the game and practicing CSing in the practice tool for hours. So just so you know how DFM's whole spring split started, they went into it knowing that they probably wouldn't win, and they just wanted to use this rebuild time to learn new things, I best to get Totsu in a comfortable position on the top lane. It was only the middle of the split when the team realized that Totsu's growth is actually more than they expected. The team was winning a lot more than they expected and everything was going fine. So that is the moment that the whole team shifted gears and started having this goal in their minds to win LJL in spring as well. With all that being said, even after the victory against Sengaku where Totsu had a fine Malphite performance, Saros had an interview where he said that Totsu is not the best in the lane just yet, his decision making is not the best, but he is incredibly fast and incredibly open to learn new things, so he is hopeful about him. And then I thought about this I think a lot of times both on my Twitter and here on this channel, but after DFM's victory in the finals, Kazu said that he wants to thank Saigon Buffalo and GAM Esports from the Vietnamese League for their help in practice, and GAM Esports coach Hankei also thanked Kazu after them winning their region. And just to round things up, Kazu was also streaming his reaction to the plains draw, where we could see that DFM was actually about to scream PSG when the home draw came out and he had to cancel it.
下のスクリームキャンセルじゃん。Hey, Hanke, can you scream tomorrow? Can we scream tomorrow? Because we have scream with PSG, but we have to deny the scream actually.
This group of teams, GAM Esports, PSG and DFM, has been a well-oiled scream partner group. They have been screaming for years. And while I don't know any insider information on this topic, this may be one of the reasons that GAM Esports have underperformed as well. Either with wrong meta read, because DFM played a lot of early game comps that didn't really work out for them, or maybe not punishing each other's mistakes enough. Anyways, MSI comes and worrying signs for DFM. And I know some people may say that, oh, this is nothing, but if you think about it, it makes, unfortunately, a lot more sense. DFM was the only team without any content whatsoever. Even minor region teams have at least posted their daily lives, or just like Instagram stories, TikToks, whatever. As for the whole DFM, Harp had like maybe 1 or 2 Instagram stories when he visited the Tottenham Stadium. And DFM uploaded one video where they talked about how they feel about the upcoming PSG match. And that video itself was not a good sign either. Yutapon wasn't feeling the best for the first 2 days due to jet lag, etc. And actually, I tried to find his solo queue account and I couldn't, because he probably couldn't play as much. This definitely made scrims worse, and I'm gonna talk about later. Scrims were not great, and in that same video still was also very hesitant what to say. He said they are not too bad, not too good, there are some mistakes, it was very vague. And after that, radio silence. not even a single update on the private Discord server, where in previous tournaments there at least used to be pictures or some small videos, and all this just went even worse after the PSG game. Game 1 was a clear victory for PSG, not much to talk about, but Game 2, DFM had a really nice lead, but they were trying to force the objectives, and PSG actually very smartly tried to choke out all the ultimates before these fights, and DFM had no tools when it came to the mid-late game. It was very smart from PSG, but in the end, heartbreaking for DFM. And then we are back to radio silence for the next 2 days. No posts on socials, absolutely no update, and while I spectated some of their games, it was mostly Totsu who was grinding hard in solo queue. Others were not playing as much. And therefore comes, I think, very similar issues. Against Loud, DFM tried to go for this very early game compounds to game in Italy, but without getting leads, they just got stomped. And Game 2, why is it the same story once again? By overforcing at the bottom one fight, they lost their lead and just gave a free game to Loud, especially against the Casio and Aphelios. This is not great. So these are just the games, and if we just look at them, we can already deduct some problems. I think the meta read was somewhat weird, even though Steel is very good on Italy and likes playing Italy. I didn't really think these comps would be that's good, and weirdly enough, while they were playing these early game comps, I guess, well, they were very aggressive. This aggressiveness sometimes was just too much. And while people can say that Totsu's champion pool is a problem, and yes, it is true, so many times the Gragas was open, one of his best champions, and it was viable, would have fit the comp as well, but DFM just didn't pick it, so I don't know. But I'm not an analyst, I'm a narrative person, and now comes the spicy part, the follow-up, because we know a little bit more from the interviews that happened afterwards. First of all, there was the only ever interview we have gotten, Yutapon's post-game interview after playing against Loud. But Yutapon basically confirmed that what we kinda knew, that it wasn't just that they didn't perform on the stage, they had about the same problems during scrims as well. He didn't go into depth what exactly went wrong in the scrims, but looked like DFM knew they were not in the brightest spot even before the PSG match. And then the big hitter Harp had an interview with Invan, a Korean outlet, which I posted on my Twitter, and it generated a tiny bit of conversation, I would say. And I truly don't think it's fair to just blame one person or the other. So let me tell you the full story and what I think of it. Harp basically said that he thinks the big problem is that he can't perform internationally, and his domestic performance just can't match how he does internationally, and this is something that he wants to fix. He felt like, while as a team, the match against PSG was probably the most frustrating because of the comeback, he personally was most angry at himself for throwing against Loud in that both team fight. As well as, and now we're getting to the spicy part, he said that basically he wasn't able to learn anything from MSI because more than half of the scrims were decided by top diff, and he wants less of those screams. Now you can see why fans just jumped on him and he got an insane amount of hate. And while flaming your rookie top laner who literally had his first ever offline tournament it sounds bad, and it is bad, it is probably unnecessary, it wasn't really as much like an excuse for himself. I felt like this was more just a fact that it happened, the screams were not great. But he added later on in another interview that he knows he underperformed in the international stage, and he knew that it was his fault against Loud that they threw that lead in game 2. He also added, while it's not an excuse, just the fact that this was the first time that they played against such huge fan base as Loud's, and their cheers came through the white noise in their headsets, and it was distracting. This is something that they haven't gotten used to it yet. This was their first experience, and they couldn't adapt in time. Remember, LJL has been online since COVID started, and even when it was offline, it's not very common you see so passionate fans as Loud has. And just to end this part, Arya also had an interview with Famous, another Korean outlet, and he basically said the same thing as everyone else. This was a bad showing, there were many factors while this MSI didn't work out, but let's just put an end to it. Let's just put an end to spring and head into summer with a fresh mind. People were taking out that part when Harp said the scrims were useless, but the reality is it's probably true, and every single person who had interviews said that they blame themselves more than anything. So there are varying signs. There were probably internal issues, but I don't think this is something when the players would just fight each other or something. I think it's more just like the reality is that they couldn't really improve inside Japan, inside this bubble, and they got a reality check. And also, once again, while it's not an excuse, since DFM could choose when they go to London, they did arrive to London super late, just a few days before MSI start. They had bad practice, champion pool issues, they probably couldn't really scrim because of that, couldn't really find new strategies, new comps because of that. So many problems contributed to these stage games. And something that everyone agreed on DFM is best to just forget about this MSI, but take away some learnings like how these early game comps are kind of screen baits. Also need to practice more top lane champions, but he's a grinder, so I am pretty sure he's gonna learn a lot more champions during summer. And Harp needs to get rid of his nerves internationally, and actually, since Worlds is gonna be in Korea this time around, this may be the best opportunity for him to do so. And in general, because it is gonna be in Korea, they can just practice on their Korean solo queue like how they always do. They can continue screaming with their scrim partners. They don't really have to travel as long as they had to London. So none of them are excuses for this performance. A lot of factors rather. A lot of these problems probably not gonna be present for Worlds. So this is gonna be their best chance to redemption. Now, can they actually mental reset and use this knowledge that they gained? That's another question, but DFM is the winning team and you don't get 15 titles by accident. I'm sure they can bounce back for summer, and LJL has a lot of scary teams still. Sengaku Gaming didn't have the best finals, but the team is very strong, even not really knowing what's gonna happen in the top lane just yet. And the Hawks, while kinda shaky, they were there with DFM and Sengaku, so LGL should be interesting nonetheless. I hope I could provide some information, some more depth, because most people were just gonna say this player or that player was the problem. Well, I think all of them. Okay, that was very bad. What I meant, there were a lot of factors that contributed to this performance, and it just couldn't really surface inside Japan while screaming against GAM and PSG, and everything just hit them now. It's a very bad timing because you're gonna embarrass yourself. There's so many eyes watching globally, but it is what it is. Mental reset, and the next split is gonna be better. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something new, and if you want to support G Sport Hub, I decided to open a Patreon. Yes, I am joining the Patreon club, but a disclaimer, I am never gonna put any main video behind a paywall or make it available sooner for paid subscribers. When I make something, I want it to just everyone see as soon as possible. So this is not what the Patreon is gonna be about. Just in these times, it would help me more to focus on this channel and make more content, make more translations. So make sure to check it out. I want to have some exclusive content, obviously, but nothing like these main videos. I'm sorry. Oh, and make sure to check out my Twitch channel because I'm gonna spectate pros. Even though DFM is out, I'm gonna spectate T1, JDG, and Genji, now that they are here in London. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Nothing else, I swear. I was Tina with the G Sport Hub, and see you in the next video. Bye bye!